And we are live.
Okay, hello everyone, welcome. We're here with Andy Potts before this weekend's Tri Rock Philadelphia. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
And we'll kick things right off. Thank you for everyone's patience. In case anyone was waiting, we were having some technical glitches, but we've got them all worked out. And we've got Andy for the next half hour to ask a few questions. So I'll get things kicked off. So since the last time we chatted with you, Andy, you have won 2 races. How are you feeling at this point in the season, maybe compared to last season as well? What do you have to improve? What are you proud of?
Yeah, so the beginning of last season was kind of all I did was keep the ball rolling. I didn't try to invent or recreate anything, and I was really sharp when it came to June and July. I was just really sharp with how I was executing on all 3 disciplines, and I was having some decent success with doing that, but I had a few stumbling blocks starting in August. So this year we played it a little differently. Coming off of an injury makes you rethink or think about what you did that works and what you were doing that you thought worked, but maybe in reality it was kind of like a glass ceiling for you. So I've raced 4 times so far this year, and I feel like I've improved each race so far, and I've been able to kind of get away with a few things in the race without a ton of maybe like total preparation, especially when it comes to like my biking volume and my running intensity. So those are the 2 things that I haven't, or I've started to address them, but they're adding to my my kind of efficiency or my skill as the season progresses. So right now my biking volume is really good. My intensity is certainly there, and then I've been able to put in some good running workouts back to back, which certainly helps with the mind and the body with preparation. So when you compare this year to last year, I think that the biggest difference is I'm not quite super sharp right now. I'm using a little bit of my experience to get away with some inefficiencies or deficiencies that I might have. But at the same time, I feel like my base is awesome right now. I'm building strength. I'm building power. I'm building endurance. I guess I'm building everything. And to me, that's super positive because the biggest race of my year is in October. And I don't want to be the sharpest I can be right now. Not that I'm not trying to improve. I'm certainly trying to improve, but I'm trying to build a sturdier, wider, more secure foundation and base work with all my training. And I think that's why my races just seem to get better and better, as opposed to, here's the best I'm going to be, and then we'll just hold on to it.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a question from a user tuning in, David Miller. He was asking if you have training suggestions for having a good run during a full distance Ironman triathlon. Bottom of my feet had a fair amount of discomfort after the bike, so run pace was 2.5 minutes slower on average than a normal marathon run. Any suggestions based on that, Andy?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is your feet were uncomfortable. To me, that tells me you might want to go up a half a size in European settings on your shoe size. My first Ironman, I raced in a size 46 shoe, and my feet swelled so much by mile 90, I actually had to unclip and ride single leg for a few miles because I just couldn't tolerate, I couldn't handle the pain in my feet because they were just being squeezed so heavily. So I would maybe look into a size up on the shoe, explore it, and then also you could have some friction on the socks that you're wearing and the way that they're hitting the sole of your running foot that create heat. Look into some socks that don't necessarily have contain heat. Let the heat disperse a little bit. And then as for your pacing, basically the way that I figure it is in an Ironman marathon, you're going to run about 20% slower than what you would normally run in a marathon flat out. So, you have to factor that into your pacing. And sometimes it becomes less about like the cardiovascular effort at the end of an Ironman and more about the muscular endurance as well as the efficiency of your stride. Are you using big muscle groups to control your motions, or are you using really small muscle groups? If you're using the smaller muscle groups, they're going to fatigue quicker, and you're going to have some issues. So I would try to maybe look at recruiting a little bit more muscle mass when it comes to your glutes and your adductors and your hamstrings. They will propel you a lot farther than you could ever imagine.
Awesome feedback, Andy. I hope that answered your question, David. Great question. How about we move on to, so Escape from Alcatraz, last race, winningest male in the race's history. And I would say something that I think stood out to everyone, and me especially, is the look on your face when you cross the finish line. And maybe if you could comment on the fact that winning doesn't really get old to you. It's just as exciting as the first time you won your first race.
Yeah, there are certain things that I try not to take for granted, and the opportunity to race is certainly one of them for me because it gives me a lot of joy. Hopefully that kind of showed in some of the pictures that you've seen. The race, the Escape from Alcatraz race, is actually going to be on June 22nd, Sunday, at it's 10 o'clock Mountain Time, so noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, on CBS Sports. So hopefully you'll get to see the reaction again. But last year I couldn't do that race. They changed the date. I had some injuries and I wasn't 100%, so I had to pull the plug. And when you have the opportunity to race pulled out from underneath you, it makes you appreciate things so much more. And this is very similar to how I felt about Hawaii and Kona last year. You get to the race line and you're unable to perform, and you realize how much you love whatever it is you're doing. And for me, it's triathlon, and I put everything I have into my performance, and I put everything I have into trying to be the best I can be. I really do. There's not a day that I've woken up in my 11-year professional career where I haven't thought, what can I do today to get better? If it's rest, then I rest. If it's train hard, then I train hard. It's certainly a process, but I've fallen in love with the process along the way, and I think that's why I get so excited and amped, and it shows that it means something to me.
Awesome. What about, since we've talked a lot already about injuries and unfortunately how that sort of derailed some things last season, is there anything in particular this season, and you've touched on it a bit, but preventative-wise, any stretches that you've learned have been particularly effective, or any training techniques that you've switched up to ensure that injuries aren't problematic this year?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that I've looked at in terms of like the process, right? So I talked about the process, falling in love with the process. So for me, being a triathlete, what do I need to do to be successful? Well, I need to swim, bike, and run as fast as I can, right? But to do that, I have to incorporate other activities into my routine to really make it so I'm swimming, biking, and running most efficiently as possible and as powerfully as possible. So a couple of years ago, I was in the weight room once a week, like lifting real weights, and I pulled that out of my routine. I want to say halfway through 2011, and I left it for 12. Didn't really do it in 13, and this past December, I went out and bought a squat rack, built it in my garage, you know, got some heavy plates, and so I'm actually lifting once a week, like heavy Olympic lifts. And I feel like what that does for me is it adds muscle recruitment to the process. So I'm just I'm I'm using a smaller percentage of my capacity or my muscles capabilities on any given movement, and I think that has really helped with my endurance. And it sounds really weird to say, go work on power to help your endurance, but what the power does and what the power offers you is, and that explosiveness, what it offers you is a chance to operate at a greater efficiency. And so I really examine, like, are my muscles firing properly? And to get them to fire properly, I need to kind of reincorporate lifting into my routine. So I think because of that, and also kind of like a slower approach to the season in terms of waiting for my body to respond to add more workload as opposed to just adding workload when the time is necessary to do it. We've kind of waited for my body to adapt, improve, then we change the stimulus. And I think those two things, when you combine them, hopefully will create a lot of stability when it comes to my body staying healthy and my mind staying fresh.
Awesome. Okay, what about for this race specifically, Tri-Rock Philly coming up? Is there anything, I'm sure, for the courses that you end up returning to each year? If there's something in particular you love about this course, or for you it might be that it's around where you grew up. What is it about Tri-Rock Philly that you like?
Tri-Rock Philly is probably the biggest departure from the usual that I set up my season around. In that, it's my only Olympic distance race that I'm going to do all year long, and I'm actually doing back-to-back races. I'm going to race 7 days later after Tri-Rock Philly. And the race course, it doesn't necessarily play into like all of my strengths, and I need to embrace that part of it because there are certain things you can control in life and certain things you can't. And I want to put myself in a little bit more uncomfortable of an environment so I can look at where I need to improve. So I love the bike course. Fairmont Park, sorry. Fairmont Park is, they closed the park for us, so it's a totally closed course, which is great. The streets are, they're wide, it's clean racing. And then the fact that they added a little bit of music into it last year, it certainly, like, you can feel the vibe, and you can feel the community atmosphere when you go down to the race. So that's certainly a nice perk.
Excellent. We have another user question from Justin, and he said, the past 2 years you've raced and won at Ironman Lake Placid to prepare for Kona. Is there a reason you chose next week's race a month earlier?
Yeah, I think it was Justin?
Yes.
Yeah, Justin, the reason I chose Coeur d'Alene over Lake Placid was it is a month earlier. So when I looked at planning the season this year with my coach, we thought, if I have less pressure to bounce back, get right back into top form after an Ironman, it can allow my body a greater chance of recovering from just the intense time and stress that an Ironman puts on you. So this year, for the first time in my career, got to try new things, see if they work. The prep has been a little bit different leading up to Coeur d'Alene. I've gotten in a lot more miles on the bike, really consistent miles too on the bike, and We're going to take a week off after Ironman Coeur d'Alene, totally off, let my body recover, and spend some good summer quality time with the kids, do some long neglected chores around the house, try to pay attention to my body, and then starting, what is it, like July 7th, I think I'll start to slowly ramp back into things, and hopefully I'll be better off for it, and I'll get that extra month of prep towards Hawaii, and I'm hoping that it could be a good change. You never know until it's over, but having a little bit of experience with the recovery after an Ironman, I feel like this could be a really good thing for me.
Excellent. How about sort of, as we've been talking about the road to Kona, what's after Coeur d'Alene? Sort of, if you could walk us through the rest of your schedule for the year and how you're building towards Kona.
All right, so end of June. June is a busy month for me racing. It's also a really busy month for Kestrel. They've been out over to China doing sales meetings, got a bunch of events. Yeah, it's the same busyness for me. I raced earlier this month in San Francisco. Got Tri-Rock Philly coming up on Sunday, and I've got Ironman Coeur d'Alene 7 days later on the 29th. And after that, it's going to be a week break, and then I'm going to slowly build back into it. I'm going to do 2 half Ironmans, not for sure, but I looked into doing Ironman 70.3 Calgary, which is at the end of July, and then 3 weeks later, Timberman 70.3, and then I'm going to kind of play it by ear, like, have I been racing well? Do I need another race? Do I need more time of just straight up, I need a bigger block of training? So if I choose Timberman to be my last race, that would give me 8 weeks till Kona, 7-8 weeks. And if I race after that, then it could be as little as 5 weeks prep. So when my coach and I look at the season and we devise a plan, a lot of it is, all right, we look at races as the peaks in the schedule, but we look at the in-between time in between a race as the key components. So you'll have X amount of days to recover and prep for your next race. And instead of looking at the specific dates of races, we look at the time in between. So for me, I did Ironman 70.3 California at the end of March, and then it was 2 weeks to the next race in New Orleans. Then I did 3 weeks till my next race in St. George. Then I did 4 weeks until a shorter race in Alcatraz, and then it's 3 and then 1. And then we take a break and kind of restart it. So when you devise a season for anyone out there, sometimes it is definitely important to look at the races out there that are feasible, manageable to get to, not crazy on your family or the time crunch of you with work and traveling. So that certainly needs to play a heavy factor. But look at the time in between races, and that can often dictate your schedule. Like, oh, you're putting too many races close together without enough training time in between to seek improvement. And the further along you go in the year, the more time you need to recover from an effort and prepare for the next effort. That's why the first 4 races of my year went 2 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart, 4 weeks apart. And because of the 4th race of the year was 4 weeks after 70.3 St. George, and it was a shorter race, I really look at it like a 7-week block before 2 races, being Tri-Rock Philly and Ironman Coeur d'Alene. I'm not sure if that really helps, but you have to look at the type of race you're doing, the time in between the race, travel to the race, and come up with a sensible schedule that doesn't overwhelm you and keeps you excited to race every time you're out there.
We've got another user question from Brett, and he was asking, and you touched on this a bit in the last question, but with the constant pressure of training and racing and sponsorship management, how do you balance family and your sport?
So, all right, the ones that are closest to you often get burned the heaviest. It's true for me. The people that I count on the most and that I love the deepest often get hurt the most, frequently and the hardest, because they end up taking a back seat towards my preparation for triathlon and what goes into, a physically exhausting sport, because I can't just come home and be super chipper because I'm really tired often. So it's hard. I could be flippant about it and say, hey, make sure you marry up, and but I think that kind of does a little bit of a disservice. It's certainly difficult, especially when you add kids into the mix. I think another thing that is also important when to be your best and to be the best person that you need to be. What that often means in life is that you aren't the most important person in your life. And so it's kind of a fine line. Like for me, the most important people in my life are my wife and kids, and it's not me. But at the same time I say that, I'm going out and pursuing a selfish endeavor and seeking personal bests. So it's a fine line, but I think that you can attack it with integrity, and the way to do it is just to be upfront with people, and try to be the same person that you want to be every time you walk through the threshold into your home or wherever it may be. What I try to do after a good day or a bad day, I try to be the same dad, the same husband every time I walk into the kitchen. And it's certainly hard to do, but I guess that's kind of one of the challenges. And, I think everybody faces it, not just professional athletes. Everybody has to face that challenge.
Always appreciate it, your honesty with that. It's tough, and just admitting that it's tough.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? This season, do you feel like you've oriented your schedule around Kona even more so than usual, or that it's a goal that kind of overrides everything?
I've definitely oriented my schedule around Kona this year, and it may not necessarily be completely evident by my racing schedule, but it's clearly evident to me on a daily basis with my training schedule. And by that I mean, we've cut out a swim workout. We've added a longer ride into the week. My baseline ride is about 15 to 18% longer of a ride every day than it was last year, just because of the demands on the bike. Our sport's improving, and if you can't do one of the three disciplines to excellence, you're not gonna be a world champion. It's just you can't have a really big hole in your game. So my training is dictating that more than my racing. I've been super positive about my racing this year. Not that I'm not normally positive, but I feel like I've improved every race, even though I haven't necessarily, gone from fourth to fifth to second to first. Sometimes the placings aren't indicative of the effort or the performance. Sometimes you get beat, but you were really good that day. It's a fine line, but my training is it's going really good, and I'm excited about it. Uh, it's kind of unique to be excited to get on the bike every day, um, and without having that dread of, boy, this is just going to be really painful. I'm not so sure I really want to hurt myself today, but I haven't really stumbled on too many of those days yet this year, and I think a lot of that has to do with my coach and I have really made things super manageable, and kind of consumable, broken it down into smaller parts and just say, hey, do this one thing right today, execute the goal of the day as best as you can. And I found that just gets me further and further into the day, into the week, into the month of improvement.
Excellent. Okay, I think last question. How about for Kona, what are you hoping by the time October comes that you'll either have improved or something that you think that you've really accomplished this year that you hope you'll maintain?
I don't know if I've gotten to the point of maintaining yet, but the improvement side is certainly there. I would like to, execute a great race in Kona, and to do that, I think it obviously requires. I mean, you look at it's the longest and hardest single day sporting event that we have in the world, and we know that the physical demands are there. I think what often is neglected, it's still talked about and noticed, but it's neglected, is the effects that, the timing of your nutrition and the kind of nutrition you're putting into your body it has to be right so you can stay focused the whole day. You know that it's not right when your mind wanders, and there's always something to focus on, even if it's a 17-hour day for some people. There's always something to focus on, and the key is how do you maintain that focus? And the focus comes through drive, discipline, attention, as well as your nutrition. So I'd love to nail my nutrition for Hawaii, and so I can showcase all the hard work. I think I know my biking will be better. I think my run pacing has already improved, and by that I mean instead of going out and trying to blister the first 10 miles in sub-hour and then just limping home, I think maybe being a little bit more conservative up front to make the 26.2 miles the fastest possible, as opposed to first 10 miles as fast as possible. So yeah, I think who can get off the bike the freshest and execute a great marathon, that's kind of been the goal of my training. And yeah, I'm excited. It's really funny, but every race so far this year, I've sat in the hotel room before or wherever I was, and the night before the race, and I said to myself, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I really don't. But I'm excited to find out. I want to see what I can do. I want to see, has my preparation made it so I'll be awesome? Has my preparation made it so I'll be flat? I don't know, but boy, I'm really interested to find out. And I have to try my best to do that, because I'll just be disingenuous to my training and myself if I don't try my best. So every time, so far this year, I've been super intrigued to see, I wonder how the day's going to go. I'm really interested to find out. Let's find out. So over the next 8 days, I'm super interested to find out, is my training where I think it is, or do I need to still improve a lot? And 2 very different tests with Tri-Rock Philly, Olympic distance triathlon, versus Ironman Coeur d'Alene, 140.6 miles. 2 very different tests. same sport. Hopefully I'll be up for both tests, and I think that could be a really nice tribute to my coach and the work that he puts in, and also the patience that my family has.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to see what the next week brings. And I think that's it for all of our time. Thank you, Andy, and thank you everyone who tuned in, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Stephanie.